So I wanted to go over this interesting efficiency trainer that someone made and talk about some concepts. I wasn't going to go too in depth into anything, just kind of like talk about stuff as I go through some hands, but there's a lot of different settings that you can do, like single suit hands. Probably the most effective for practice is taking out honor tiles because honor tiles are almost always not efficient. Then um, I'd also recommend turning off exception hands. Sometimes Chi-Toitsu is a good hand to go for. It's like the only good hand to go for in some cases, but a lot of times um, it'll make a recommendation based off Chi-Toitsu, and it's probably better for practice to just not consider it. And there's some other options too. So you would just click on a tile, and then it'll tell you if it thinks that's an efficient discard, and it uses um, I don't know if it uses Tenho. I don't think it uses Tenho internally, but it links to a Tenho um, efficiency page where you can see um, how good each discard is essentially, and what tiles you can accept if you make each type of discard. So, for pure efficiency, I should discard the 8 or the 9. And, hmm. Oh, I didn't expect to draw that. This one, it doesn't matter as much. Um, so there's some situations where it doesn't really matter too much to have perfect efficiency, and some situations where you probably don't want to do the most efficient thing. So the biggest point I would make is when you're really far from tenpai, you don't really want to always do pure efficiency. So like in this hand, this is a case where um, it might tell me to discard the. I think the 2 and the 6 are equal in terms of immediate turn efficiency, which is what this uses. So they're going to be equal, but if I was playing, I would want to keep the 6 so I have a chance to draw a better weight around the 6 and maybe get Tanyao and Pinfu and other things. So I'd discard the 2. But from the point of this thing, 2 and 6 are equal. So, yeah. And I would have drawn the 3. And now for pure efficiency, I have to discard the 6. But if you're playing, this might not be a situation where you want to discard the 6 because you have the chance to draw, again, Tanyao or Pinfu or other tiles around this. Like, the 6 is a pretty good tile to hold, and it's early on. But, um, so now I'm pretty much going to just be discarding everything until I get to Tenpai. Now I have a chance for Tanyao. Now I can switch to guaranteed Tanyao. And I want to keep the chance to draw the Dora. So these are things that don't matter with the efficiency trainer. Like I could have discarded the 4 instead of the 1, and then it wouldn't have made a difference on that specific turn. But discarding the 1 and keeping the 4 gave me a chance to get an upgrade, and then it gave me the chance for Tanyao, which isn't considered in this yet. There's still features being added, and I think Yaku considerations are one, so that could be added later. So for example, here I discard the 6 instead of the 2, so I can use the Dora, which is actually the 4 instead of the 3. I thought the Dora was the 3. So with that said, I should probably discard this 2 so I can use a red 5 here if I happen to draw that. And now here it's going to tell me that it's better for me to go back like I should discard the 6 now because this is now a 3-sided weight, but that would put me into free 10 because I already discarded the 2. But as far as the efficiency trainer is concerned, I should discard the 6 because it's only looking at like this, and it doesn't consider free 10 yet. And now it's 10 pi, and it's going to tell me to discard the 7 even though it's free 10, because that gives me the most chances to win. So when you're far away from 10 pi, it's harder. Oh, this is a hand that you would be going for Chi Toitsu or Toi Toi, but that's Chi Toitsu isn't on right now, so it's going to be kind of hard to win this one. When you're far away from 10 pi, a lot of times it's more about drawing better weights than it is about being 100% efficient. But as you get closer to 10 pi, a lot of times you will want to focus more on being efficient. And also, if you make mistakes when you're really close, when you're like one away from 10 pi or closer to 10 pi, usually those mistakes are bigger than the ones where if you're far away. So here I'm just gonna try and play this. Here it's gonna tell me to, I think the 7 and the 1 are equal, pretty sure. So I should probably discard the 1, but wait. Oh, I have to, on the 1001, there's a button to switch between considering Chi Toitsu and Kokushi or not considering it. So the 1 and the 7 were equal. So I should keep the 7 so I can try to draw better weights maybe. Here I should keep the 5 so I can maybe use the Dora. These are all things that aren't considered by this trainer, but they're things that you should think about if you're trying to use it to get better. So here I discard the 3. Here I have to discard the 5. And now I'm in 10 pi, I take the better weight. So this hand does have a pair, and it has a pair, 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks. So in terms of pure efficiency, discarding every other lone tile is going to be completely efficient. So like for example, the 3 of bamboo, the 9 of characters, and the 9 of bamboo, all of them aren't helping on this immediate turn, so discarding either of them would be completely equivalent. So, but you might want to hold the 3 so you have a chance to draw a better weight. But your weights are kind of good. You just have a 1-3. That's the only weight that you would consider not very good. So here you might hold the 4 because you would have a 2-sided weight with the 3 and the 4. And then if you drew a pair on your bad weight, the 1-3, then you could switch and then you could use that as your pair and then use this group in the middle as a 2-sided weight, and then you have all good weights. So again, this is something that doesn't matter in terms of this trainer and the pure efficiency numbers, but it's the type of thing you would want to think about in a game. None. I think you would switch to Tanyao here. And it's also, but yeah, I think it's the same efficiency if you discard the 1-3, the 1 or the 3, or the 3 or the 4. And that's also something, like if you're playing an actual game, if you can see the types of tiles where it's like discarding either of them would be completely equivalent efficiency-wise, then you can start to make decisions based on other things like, do I want to discard a dangerous tile early because like I know this 3 is dangerous, so I can discard it now because it would be completely equivalent to discarding the 1. That's something you would want to think about. Or this 3 and 4, maybe I want to discard one of those or something like that. Here I'll just try discarding the 3 and make sure I'm actually correct, and I am. The 1, 3, 3, and 4, and even the 7 are all the same. Not sure if that's actually the best play to make, and would have drawn the 2, but that doesn't matter too much. And it's not the 7. I'm kind of surprised. So if you get something wrong, you can see like what you might have missed. It's pretty interesting. And now it's going to be 10 pi on the 4. So eventually I'll get certain hands, but so this hand does have some pairs, but as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it technically has 5 blocks, and as a result, the efficiency trainer isn't going to care which lone tile you discard, but all the blocks are really bad, so you would really want to be focused on making better blocks here. So like, I could discard the 7 and it would probably say I'm 100% efficient, but that wouldn't be a good play. 9's the Dora, and a lot of times keeping the Dora is going to be less efficient in terms of a pure numbers standpoint because it's next to the Dora indicator, so there's less tiles that you can draw to use with it. So it's going to be like 1 less efficient than an otherwise equivalent tile. But when you're actually playing a game, you would almost always want to hold the Dora instead of a equivalent non-Dora tile. So here I discard the 1. But I'm pretty sure like the 7 is the same and the 9 because they're lone tiles. So if you have enough blocks already and you have a pair, then all lone tile discards are going to be the exact same in terms of efficiency. But again, you would often want to hold middle tiles so you can draw better weights as the round progresses. So again, here the 7 and the 9 are going to be completely equal. And usually you would discard the 9 without hesitation to try to draw better shapes, but here the 9's the Dora, although here I'm just going to discard it anyway, and I drew a better shape around the 7, but I lost some value from discarding the Dora, so it's a trade-off. Here, not entirely sure what you're supposed to do in terms of the best discard in an actual game. In terms of the efficiency trainer, discarding, I think almost everything is going to be equivalent, like the 7, 9, 1, 2, 4. I think 7, 9, 1, 2, 4, 4, 6 are all going to be equal in terms of pure efficiency numbers. But in terms of the best choice in game, I'm not sure what it would be. And I'll just try the 4. Let me make sure everything's the same. Like I said, 7, 9, 1, 2, 4, 4, and 6. And even you could discard the 7, 8, but that's worse. And in this case, it would actually matter more. Even though the number difference is only 4 tiles, it would actually be pretty, I would consider it pretty costly to discard the 7, 8, because that's your good weight. Here I would discard the 7, I think. Oh no, oh, I should have discarded the 4. But, no, this doesn't help as much. If I discarded the 4, I'd be 1 away from 10 by now, so technically that was kind of a mistake, and I drew the tile that made a mistake, but this is one of the things that's easier to see, like when you're playing, like maybe that wasn't the best choice, but I'm pretty sure that 2 is best here. And now it's 10 pi, and you would take this weight. So one of the things that gets weird is if you have a hand that doesn't have a pair, and sometimes when you have hands that don't get enough blocks, it can be really hard to read what's the most efficient discard, and a lot of times what the most efficient discard by pure numbers isn't necessarily the one you would want to take in an actual game. Here I have a pair, kind of two pairs, so 1, 2, 3, 4 blocks, so I would want it. I don't have enough blocks, so I'd want to keep the tiles that give me the best chance of drawing one more block, which would be the tiles closer to the middle. And now it's going to tell me to discard the 2 or the 3. They're going to be equivalent. I discard the 2 though, because I can draw a good way around the 3. In an actual game, you might be thinking about Chinitsu with this hand or something like that. So just to make sure, the 2 and the 3 are equivalent. You would often hold the 3 to draw a better weight. And now it's just going to be like clicking for a while. And now I can discard this 3, and now I have 2 good weights. This is what they call the perfect Ishan 10. And now it's 10 pi. This might be one of those hands, so there's no clear pair here. So there's 1, 2, 3. There's also not enough blocks. Some of these hands can be really hard to read in terms of pure efficiency. In terms of playing, I would want to keep the 9 so I could use the Dora 7. And I'd want to keep this one to make a 2-sided weight, potentially, if I draw a 2, so it'd be better than like this one, which can't draw a 2-sided weight with anything. Sometimes it will tell you, like, if it was like, sometimes it'll tell you to discard the tile next to a pair because that has less draws in terms of pure efficiency numbers, and sometimes that's not a good choice. See, here, like the 1 of circles might give me a 2-sided weight, so I'd rather keep it, but in terms of pure efficiency numbers, it's not as good as the 1, 9, and the 9. Or I guess just the 1. I mean, yeah, the 1, 9. And apparently the 8 and the 9. So this is one of the cases where it's like really hard to read. Even if you're pretty good at it, it can be really hard to read what the best discard by pure efficiency numbers for one turn is. So I'd suppose it's the 1 again here. Although if I was actually playing, I'd discard the 9. Because I might draw a 2-sided weight like that. And now it's like a shame. But, it's going to be the 4. And now it's 10 pi. It also has statistics for like how good you're doing overall. This one, so one of the things you'll see is the way to figure out what the most efficient discard is going to depend on how many blocks you have and whether or not you have a pair in those blocks somewhere. And although like in cases where you're far away from tempi, the pure numbers decision is going to be different than the best decision that you would make when just playing normally. A lot of times it is something that you want to think about when you're playing normally, like how many blocks do you have? Do you have a pair? You want to use the same pieces of information. You just might use them to come up with a different answer when you're actually playing. This one's pretty hard. I think it's the 2 because I have enough blocks, so like I have this 1 block here, 2, 3, 4, and a pair. So the 2 isn't adding anything to the efficiency because the 3 would still advance my hand with the 3, 4, 5. Sometimes, like, if I didn't have a pair, if I didn't have this pair of 9s, then discarding the 2 would actually go backwards because the pure efficiency numbers would assume I have to use the 5s as a pair, and then if I discard the 2, then I'm discarding a group of 2 with the 2-4, and then that would be taking a step backwards because now it doesn't complete a meld with the 3 because I have to use the 5s as a pair. But in this case, I have enough blocks. This is the Dora, but can't do anything about that. Here, you discard the 9 actually. In game, I would discard the 5 because you expect the 4-5 weight to complete with a 3 or a 6 because there's 8 of those tiles, so you have a good chance of that. And the 8-9 weight is harder to complete, so you want to hold tiles with the weights that are harder to complete to give them a better chance to complete. So like, I would hold the extra pair with my bad weight, so I have a better chance of getting through the bad weight. But in terms of pure efficiency, 9 is the Dora indicator, so there's more 5s than 9s, and it would tell me to discard the 9 instead of the 5. Most of these are going to be straightforwards now. Here I'd probably discard the 8-9, just because 6-8 has a chance to improve. But there's a risk of going free 10 if I draw the 5, because I already discarded the 1. These are the types of things, again, that you would want to be thinking about in an actual game or when you're trying to improve, but they also wouldn't necessarily be told to you by this. At least not yet. So now it's a different type of weight, and now I drew a two-sided weight next to the 4. So here's another situation where the 6 and the 8 are going to be equal in terms of efficiency numbers and actual efficiency in game. So if you know that, you would discard the more dangerous one first, which is usually the 6, unless for some reason you thought someone was already in Tenpai or someone already declared Reach, then you might discard the safer one first. But here I discard the more dangerous one, and apparently, technically, it's not as efficient in pure numbers because there's one of the 2s is already in our hand, so that's one less tile. But this is one where you would actually not want to go with the pure efficient answer because you would rather keep 2 guaranteed good weights rather than the Ryoncon, the 4-6-8 weight, because the 4-6-8, if that's your final weight when you get to Tenpai, it'll be a bad weight, and then that's a lot worse than just losing out on the 1 tile that you lose out on for going for the 3-4 guaranteed two-sided weight. So here's one situation where you wouldn't want to take the the most efficient answer by numbers, even though it's 1 away from Tenpai. Now it's going to tell me to switch with the 9, I'm pretty sure, but that would go free 10, or there's a risk of going free 10 if I do that, but I'll do it for now. So if I had discarded the 7-8 like I was going to, it would say that's not very efficient. And now it would tell me to take the Furry 10 weight. So here's one of the cases that comes up sometimes where you have a 6-8-9 and you might need more blocks, but you might also need a pair. And it gets really confusing in terms of pure numbers because the 9 is pretty good in the 6-8-9 for drawing a pair because the 6 or the 9 can become a pair, and then you still have a weight left over. Whereas if you just had a lone tile, you would have to draw that exact tile to become a pair. But if you already have a pair, the 9 in the 6-8-9 is doing nothing, and it'll always be most efficient to just discard the 9. So that can be tough to read. And so if you don't have enough blocks and you don't have enough blocks and you don't have a pair, then it gets really tough to calculate. But you probably wouldn't want to calculate by pure numbers either. In an actual game, probably discarding the 1 or the 9. Either of them is fine. And sometimes you would keep the 9 just because there's a chance you might draw a 7 and kind of get something better around it. As for what I think the most efficient by numbers discard is, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. I don't have enough blocks. And I do have a pair. I think it's the 9. Pretty sure. No, it's the 3 of circles. See, these are the ones that, like, this one's really hard to read, and you probably wouldn't actually pick the 3 of circles in game either. Especially since the 1 is the Dora. But that one tile isn't gonna make that much of a difference. Here, I'm pretty sure it's the 1. So this one, it's probably going to tell me the 3 and the 7 are the same. But you would actually probably want to discard the 1 if you're actually playing this hand in a game. But I think it's going to say 3 and 7 are the same. Yeah. And you probably wouldn't want to discard either of those. Because you might draw like an 8 to go with the 7. And now this hand is kind of annoying. It's going to tell me to discard the 3. Because it's not helping to advance my hand. I guess I could discard the 1 too. Now it's mostly just going to be clicking. Now it's going to be the 1, and this would be a Chi-Toitsu hand now, maybe. Like, you would probably be aiming for Chi-Toitsu at this point, but I have it off right now. So, I think I have to discard the 6 here. Even though I'm not sure if that's the choice you would want to make in the game. It's a bit of a tough situation to read. So, what's next? Oh. Wait, why is 4 better? Oh. I see. Actually, I think, yeah, you'd want to discard the 4 there, because you could draw E-Peiko with the 3. So this can help you see things like, again, like, I think if I had that exact hand, I'd want to discard the 4 and not the 8, because I could, if I discard the 4, then I can accept the 3 of bamboo, and then get E-Peiko and Tanyao. So that's what I wanted to think about. I guess I'd go for the red 5, maybe, and discard the 8. So this hand doesn't really have a pair, so it's probably going to tell me to keep this 1, because it has enough blocks. 1, 2. So I bet it's going to say the 7 is the best. But in an actual game, you probably wouldn't discard the 7. You would discard the 1, and it's telling me the 1 is equivalent, so I would discard the 1. And now it's going to say the 2, I think. Now I just click. Now it's going to be the 5. But in an actual game, I'd probably discard the 1, so I think 5 is the most efficient in terms of 1 turn pure numbers, but 1 is probably what I discard in a game, but I'm not sure on that. So 5, 1, and 5 were actually all the same. Here, I think it's the 3, but I'm not sure. 1, 3, 7 were all the same. Now I discard the 1. And here I just click until I get Tenpai. So there are a lot of things that I think are really useful with this. Also, I haven't I haven't done it yet, but if you do something that like takes you backwards, you get a red indicator for that, and a lot of times those are gonna actually be mistakes too. Occasionally, I've seen times where you might be really far away from Tenpai, and it would actually make a lot of sense to make a discard that would take you backwards, but this will consider a mistake. But most of the time, you don't want to go backwards. There are some considerations again with like Dora or value where you would if you have really bad weights in situations like that, you would consider going backwards to draw better weights or higher value, and sometimes that makes sense. So it's not like you never want to go backwards at all, but most of the time you don't want to go backwards, and it can tell you that there's actually a big mistake you're making if you are going backwards sometimes. Here, I think it's going to be 1 is probably equivalent to the 8 here. And let me just see if it is. Yep. Now it would tell me I have to discard this 1 for pure numbers. But I might want to keep it so I could draw a better weight like this. So I might not actually do that in a game. Now I have to discard the 4, which is the Dora. So I probably wouldn't do that, but I have to discard that. And the reason why, technically, the 1, 4, and the 5 were all equivalent, I think. But if it wasn't the Dora, you would discard the 4 every time, pretty much, because maybe not with the 4, 6, 8, so that actually complicates things, but usually you discard the extra pair that's with your good weight, and you keep the pairs on your bad weights, like I said before, so you have a better chance to complete the bad weights. And this is kind of tough. I think you would discard the 1 for a small chance to get to Tanyao. And that might have it kind of backfired here, but that might have been what I should have done when I had the 3, when I had the extra 4 as well. And I think you take this, and there it is. This end isn't too bad with 2 Dora and a 2-sided weight. Here, the 9 has no value if the 8's going to be a pair. The 9 doesn't add anything to your efficiency numbers because the 7 already improves your hand with the 5, 6. So most of the time, discarding the 9 is going to be best. Here's another case where like 5 is equivalent to 9 here because they're both lone tiles and you have enough blocks to complete your hand already, so all your lone tiles are equivalently useless in terms of 1 turn efficiency. But it would be huge here to keep the 5 because you could get Pinfu, Tanya, or not Tanya, Pinfu, Itsu, and the 5 is the Dora. You could also pair it to get 2 Dora, so you would almost never discard the 5, and you would almost always discard the 9 in this specific case. And there's now you've got your Dora. And in terms of efficiency, it's equivalent to discard the 8-8 and the 1-2. And I'm not sure which one's actually better. Maybe the 1-2. Because even though the 5's the Dora, if you drew Itsu, so if you drew a 4 or a 6, you could drop two-sided weight around the 5, and then you would be happy with discarding the Dora to take the two-sided weight and potentially Itsu and guaranteed Pinfu. So I think you'd discard the 1. Here's an Itsu hand. So this hand's really easy to play because it's 1 away from Tenpai from the start. But this is the Dora, so you wouldn't discard it on the first turn, even though 7 and 9 are equivalent there. Now it's going to say you have to discard the 7 because every other tile is adding to your chance to draw into Tenpai in 1 turn. Now, it's mostly just clicking until you get to Tenpai. This is a pretty nice hand. So here's a case without a pair. And sometimes in cases like these, I don't know if it'll happen here because I have 1, 2, 3. I don't have enough blocks, so I'm going to want to keep tiles that give me a better chance to make more blocks as well as make a pair. But sometimes they'll say like you should discard the 6 out of a 5, 6, 6, 7 because you don't have a pair. And the best way to improve your immediate odds is to hold all the tiles that give you a better chance to make a pair. But things like 5, 6, 6, 7 give you a really good chance to draw better weights, so you wouldn't actually want to discard it because it would be really useful, especially if the rest of your hand has bad weights or it doesn't have weights at all. I think 9 is going to be best. I want to see if there's anything else. 9 and 2 were the same. This one's pretty tough. I think it's 2. Alright. This one's hard to read, but I'm pretty sure 5 is the best discard. And you just click until you're a Tenpai. 3. So, I don't really have that much more to say, but I guess I think in a lot of ways this is a really useful tool, and it's worthwhile to try it out and use it for practice. But there are some limitations right now, and I do think the person who made it is still updating it regularly. Like I know they added unsort hand button just recently, but yeah, there are some times where you don't necessarily want to make the most efficient discard in terms of 1 turn numbers, but a lot of times you do, and it is helpful to just try and use this and see where it thinks you're not making an efficient discard. Here I think it's going to be a 5. And 8. Wait, what did I click? What? Wait, I thought I clicked the... Oh, I misread my hand or something. Wait, 0 tiles. No, it's like glitching, I'm pretty sure. I didn't have that many 9s. Oh well. I'll have to tell the person about a bug. Maybe if you turn off the sort hand in the middle, it causes a problem. So this is a pretty good hand. It doesn't have a pair though, so there's that to think about. It's probably going to tell me to discard the 2 or the 4. 4 is a lone tile, so I discard the 4. And pretty this one's hard. I think the 8. It's gonna say the 8 is best. Yeah, I felt like it might not be the 8, but like you would discard the 8 instead of the red 5 in an actual game, pretty much, because it's a red 5. But I was thinking like it might not be the 8 here. That's the most efficient in terms of numbers. So here I think it's going to be the red 5, but that would be like super Fourier 10. But like I think it's the red 5. No, it was actually the 2 of characters. But what happened to the 5 of bamboo that I had? Did I like miss it? Did I? Oh yeah, I guess there's still a bug with this. But I was like, didn't I have a 5 of bamboo and not a red 5? Yeah. Well. Mm, 6, I think. Oh. That's mm, mm. And 1 of circles. 1 and 2 are equivalent. It's gonna be the 4. This is the Dora though, so you wouldn't you wouldn't actually do that. Gonna be the 1. Sometimes you'd keep this 1. 1 and 2 are gonna be equivalent, but sometimes you'd keep the 1 in this shape because if you draw a 2 or a 5, then you have a 2-side weight left over, like 1, 3, 4, 5, 6, 8 can complete with a 2 or a 7, or you have a 1, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, and a 4, 6, 8 that can complete with a 5 or a 7. So, what is it here? These are some situations where like, so there's a 5 block theory, so you generally want to keep your 5 strongest blocks and discard the extra blocks. But in terms of 1 turn efficiency numbers, that choosing between 5 block and 6 block and even 7 block or however many this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 in some in some ways you could consider this 7. Even if it's going to be equivalent to keep 7 blocks or 6 blocks or so generally 5 block your 5 best blocks is better, but in terms of numbers you can do other things that aren't necessarily as good. That's what I'm trying to say. Gonna be the so like here discarding the 4 and the 9 are going to be equivalent, but you would discard the 9 and keep the better blocks because that would be 5 good blocks or 5 relatively good blocks. It would be 5 blocks exactly and not 6 is what I mean to say. If you discard the 4, you're now in a 6 block shape. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And you'd rather have 5 blocks. But like I was saying, 9 and 3, 3, 6, 3, 6, 8 are all the same. Apparently 4 is way far down. Oh, because of Chitoitsu. So if you take out Chitoitsu, 9, 4, and 8 are all the same. But you should probably choose the 9. And you have to choose 9 again. It's gonna have to be the 8, I think. Here is one of the cases where I discard the 4 or the 8. Oh, I should have. I should have discarded the 4, so I have the pair of 6s, and I could draw a better weight around the 6. So now I've discarded the 7. This is one case where, so discarding the 4, 6, 8, or 4 are all equivalent for characters, or the 4, 6, 8 of circles. All of those are equivalent, or not the 6, because that would break it, but 4 or the 8 or the 4 are all equivalent. But like I was saying, you want to give your bad weights the best chance to complete, so you want to keep the 4, 6, 8 together, because you don't want to end up with a bad weight at the end. So give your bad weights the best chance of completing first. And it didn't turn out that way this time, but that's what you'd be going for. 9. 1. Not the 9. It's gonna tell me I have to discard the 4. So I'll do it, but do anything about that? 5 of circles. I guess it's because of a tile that was already discarded. Because now I'm in Furry 10, but And now it's Pinfu Tanyao Tsudora. Yeah, I don't really have much more to talk about. Just clicking through. Here, 3 and 5 are going to be equivalent. I do want to emphasize that if you can see which types of discards would be equivalent in an actual game, it can help you make certain decisions, like when it's a good time to discard a tile in advance, or when it's fine to hold certain tiles for value, or things like that. So here, 7, 8, 4, 5, and 5, 7 are all going to be equivalent. One idea is keeping a good weight, so both of these are good weights, so you might think of keeping that, but if I was actually playing, I'd think I'd discard the 8, because possible Sanshoku, and then guaranteed Tanyao, and you can draw a better weight around here. So, like I said, they're all the same, but like for Sanshoku Tanyao and improvement potential, I discard the 8. Now, for efficiency, I have to discard the 7 and give up Sanshoku, but in an actual game, I might keep the 7 and discard the 5 or something like that. So now it improved, and now I've guaranteed Tanyao and good weights that don't overlap. And now it's no point. Let's just see if. And I just have to click and. One other thing is that if you get really good at this, where you can just kind of like do it without thinking too much about it, then it gives you a lot more time to like think about other things, like pay attention to what other people are discarding, and like um, think about what they're doing, like where their hands are going, or what you might do if you draw a certain tile or if someone declares reach. You can basically think about a lot more things while you're actually playing, because you don't have to focus so much on your your own hand and what you want to discard. So if you can just like click through and not think too much about it. Here's one case where um, I think the 1 and the 9 are pretty much the same, but if you can just click through, then um, it helps when you're actually playing because you don't have to focus so much on your own hand. I'm surprised that was bad. But I did give up the Dora. Here it's going to tell me I have to keep the 4, but it's free 10, so I don't want to keep it. A lot of free 10 risk with it. Hmm. Guaranteed Tanya. 3 Dora. 4 Dora. Ooh. I should have probably. Anyway, I'll stop there. Thanks for watching if you're watching.